Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Sunday. This is May 22nd. This is 9 a.m. Pacific time. And this is a Sunday morning Zoom call for a ministry that I am hosting called Psychiatric Sobriety. I've been hosting it for about 6 months. Psychiatric Sobriety has 4 sentences. I go over this introduction at the beginning of every Zoom call. It's for the courageous souls who have chosen to exit psychiatry, surrender their pharmaceuticals, and permeate the veils of mental illness. Huge assignment, courageous assignment. Take a deep breath. Warrior assignment. Folks, we're not going to do it perfectly. No one's going to do this perfectly, but all of us who come into this ministry have chosen to do it nonetheless. I'm a wounded healer. I'm 55 years old. My name is Kenneth Price. I spent 25 years in the mental health system on psychiatric pharmaceuticals and benzodiazepine. Folks, I know what it's like to try and get off those medications. That's why I call myself a wounded healer. I don't have any credentials, but I got qualifications because I made it to the other side of my withdrawals and I emerged from my own psychiatric parable. This is what I want to contribute and offer to the medically injured community, although I don't want to use the word medically injured community. This is just my yoga now. My service is to extend the tools and resources, and more important, the love that emerged my soul from all of that. The madness, the belief that I had a mental illness that could be ameliorated with pharmaceuticals based on a chemical imbalance hypothesis. In my story, folks, it was all a misunderstanding. So, since this is a ministry, this is unlike, and this is not about, trying to fix what's wrong. This is about bringing spirit into our lives and letting the grace, emerge us from that nightmare, okay? But seeing as that I'm working with a very fragile community, folks, I have to offer forward disclaimers because the last thing that I want to do is do no harm, okay? So the first disclaimer is none of us are here to tell anybody that they should exit psychiatry or get off their meds. That's a decision that people have already made by the time they come into this ministry. So all we can do is offer our testimonies and offer our lighthouses. We've got emerged members on board. So for harm reduction purposes, we're not here to give you any answers. We're here to share information, what's working for us, okay? I'm a 12-stepper from way back, so that's kind of the way that I formulate these Zoom meetings. And that being said, this morning, we're gonna make this an Aaa Speaker Meeting. Remember I called it Psychiatric Sobriety? That's because I'm a 12-stepper and we used to call it sobriety. And in our 12-step days, we had speaker meetings. They were fabulous. And I am so thrilled that I get to bring an emerged speaker on board this morning who's going to share her testimony. But 2 more things before we bring the speaker on board. In the 12-step days, we always put $1 in the basket, okay? Now, people who came into the 12-step meetings could not afford a lot of therapy. They couldn't afford expensive spiritual retreats. However, we did put $1 in the basket every time. Now, because I am hosting Psychiatric Sobriety, I've got a donations button and I'm asking for $1 in the basket. If you can donate more, that would be well received because I'm putting time and energy into this ministry on my own time. And I don't want to charge money, and I'm not going to charge money. I will accept donations. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put the new slogan, $1 in the basket. Okay, so before we bring our guest on board, because it's a ministry, we've got to bring spirit in to start this off. So I've got a Pathways of Light minister who's going to say a prayer to start us. And his name is Sean Nelson. So Sean, can you unmute yourself and start us off Sunday morning with a prayer so that we can have guidance for the next hour and a half?
Good morning, dear ones. Thank you for joining us this morning, this beautiful Sunday morning. I see so many beautiful faces coming in today, and It's always beautiful to join with everyone here. I invite each of you to just sit back and get settled in your chair, wherever you are, and just take a big deep breath. Exhale any stress from yesterday. Another big deep breath. Exhale any worries of tomorrow. Another big deep breath. Let this one bring you right here into this very present moment full of love. Father, Mother, God, angels, spirit guides, ascended masters, we welcome you and ask you to join us in this meeting this morning as we come together as one mind to heal, to lift each other up, to inspire, to encourage, to offer guidance, and mostly unconditional love. Comfort our hearts and our minds and remind us of the truth of who we are. We are not of this world. And that was the suffering that we experienced for so long, was the belief that we were these limited creatures. And as we are in this emergence together, holding hands, awakening to the truth, that we are divine beings of light and love and peace and joy. And let that guide this meeting today to the highest good for all, that everyone here will come away with something that healed their mind and their heart today. Thank you so much. In deep gratitude. Amen.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. All right. This is the fun part. This is where I get to introduce Jody. All right. It's kind of like made a believer out of me, folks. This ministry is nothing I'm doing right. It's the ministry itself, and I'll tell you why. All I did was start this, and I don't know when it was. It must have been a couple of months ago. This woman called me, and suddenly she came on board, and she has. I don't know what to say, Jody. It's your turn, Jody. It's your turn. Share us your beautiful parable. I can't wait to have it documented. This is going to help so many people to hear what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Go for it.
Thank you, Kenneth. Wow, yeah. So what an honor to be here. I'm so grateful to be invited here to share this story, especially at this time of year. So at the end of May in 2010 was rock bottom for me. This story that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to really try not to go into any details. I want to share some highlights. I want to share how bad it got, how good it is now, and what I did to bridge the gap. My story is full of hope and inspiration. It's really hope for the hopeless, because at rock bottom 12 years ago, end of May in 2010, I was completely hopeless. I was living in hell, and I had been there for a very long time. So in the spring of 2010, end of May, I woke up strapped to a hospital bed because I had tried to kill myself 3 times in 10 days. The first time, I swallowed a bunch of Valium. I had been stockpiling Valium for a few months. I ended up in the hospital. They pumped my stomach. They pumped me full of fluids, and they put me in a hallway. And I left with the IV still in me. couple of days later, I took all of the opiates that I had been stockpiling for a few months. I didn't end up in the hospital. I woke up in a pool of vomit in my living room. A couple of days later, I took another several handfuls of pills. I woke up strapped to a hospital bed. I put myself in a coma. And so I woke up strapped to this hospital bed. I was taking 13 drugs, over 20 prescribed pills a day. I was on antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers. I was on 4 benzos at the same time. I was also on heart medication because my blood pressure was through the roof. I was also on stomach medication because I had horrendous tummy troubles, heartburn, nausea. I was 195 pounds. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was psychotic. I was blacking out. I was mood swinging like crazy, like just rapidly cycling. I had no control over myself whatsoever. I was in so much pain, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. I had been in the mental health system for 13 years. And 10 of those years I was being polydrugged. So what does that mean? For me, it meant that the doctors were throwing handfuls of prescriptions at me because my symptoms were so extreme. They didn't know what to do with me. Their way is medication, which I call drugs, because really that's what they are. Psychotropic drugs, mood altering drugs. They thought I had this chemical imbalance, so they were trying to fix it by adding cocktails of chemicals in. And so this went on for 10 years. They would take away some drugs and add some drugs and take away some drugs and add some drugs. So I was in withdrawal for basically those whole 10 years, cycling between withdrawal and added side effects of the new drugs that they were trying. So as you can imagine, this was just a roller coaster ride of hell, emotional hell, mental hell, physical hell. So what landed me in the mental health system? This is where I'm going to begin this story. Well, I've already begun, but this is really the straw that broke the camel's back for me. In 1999, when I was 21 years old, I gave birth to a stillborn son. And so to say that this completely destroyed me is the understatement of the century. I had no support. And so a year later, I had a complete mental breakdown. Summer of 20, or it was September of 2000, September 2000. I had a complete mental breakdown. I voluntarily admitted myself into a hospital. I was diagnosed and medicated. I was given 7 mental illness diagnoses in that first hospital trip. Major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder with panic attacks, post-traumatic stress disorder, and 4 personality disorders: avoidant personality, dependent personality, paranoid personality, and a borderline personality disorder. Those were my new labels, and I was medicated and I was released. So this began really the hell. And for 13 years, I was in the mental health system, completely believing in what the doctors told me, that I had these chemical imbalances, that I was sick, that what I was experiencing was wrong, and it needed to be fixed, it needed to be medicated. And I was just in so much pain. I had a pretty traumatic childhood. Losing my son wasn't the only trauma that I experienced, sort of. So I was in so much pain. And I can tell you now from my experience that trauma causes all sorts of issues. So they gave me some drugs, they took some drugs away, they gave me more drugs, they took some drugs away. 3 years into my journey, I started blacking out. My body was so painful to be in that I started dissociating. And the extreme case of that, in 2003, I started blacking out and waking up in pools of my own blood. This was when things got really dark and really scary, and the doctors added more drugs. This is when the antipsychotics were brought on board. This is when things got really ugly. So 3 years into my journey with the mental health system, what a train wreck. And it just went on like this, and it went on. And my physical symptoms got worse. My mental health got worse. Everything just got worse. I look back on it, and the more drugs they gave me, the worse I got. The more side effects I had to deal with, the withdrawal from them taking drugs away and adding more drugs. With their best intention, they were trying to find the magic combination of pills that would fix me. My symptoms were so extreme. And I could just imagine that they were baffled. They didn't know what to do with me. I was actively trying to destroy myself because I was in so much pain, and I wasn't given any real answers. No therapy, no, like just drugs, just more pills. It's totally baffling. You know, I look back on my journey, I shake my head, and I'm like, holy crap, how does that happen? How does somebody even survive that? Honestly, I'm still in shock and awe. Because right now I'm telling you about my downward spiral, where I spiraled all the way down to rock bottom. I had multiple suicide attempts in my 10 years of being polydrugged. Several times I put myself in a coma because I had taken so many pills. The doctors were giving me handfuls of pills, and so that gave me a perfect opportunity to stockpile pills. So it was just like this roller coaster ride of pills the doctors wanted me to take and pills that I was taking on my own to just try and end it all because I couldn't cope. I couldn't cope with my emotions. I couldn't cope with my anger, my fear. my victimhood. All of this was happening to me. I wasn't in control of any of it. Wow. The feelings that I have coming up as I tell this story are quite uncomfortable. So excuse me while I just breathe through it. So at the end of May in 2010, I had all of these issues, so many symptoms, depression, anxiety, so much anxiety, so much depression, just cycling really quickly, rapidly cycling between the two. They tried to label me with bipolar, but it didn't stick because it didn't stick, but it was basically just like way up here, way down there, way up here, way down there, way over there, way over here, just like jumping out of my skin in hell, needing to escape. Just get me out of here. So rock bottom, 2010, end of May. I think like in a few days, if I actually look at my calendar. So I wake up strapped to this hospital bed. I was depressed. I was so depressed when I did those 3 suicide attempts that I was actually willing to end it all. So it's like impossible to describe with words how I was feeling when I woke up strapped to that hospital bed. Because I was so extremely upset at everything. And I couldn't even end it all. Like 3 very serious attempts and I couldn't even do that right. So wow, devastated again. I look back on it and I have to chuckle, I have to laugh because the feelings are so uncomfortable. It's almost laughable, but it's really not. It's just a coping mechanism. So I just want to go back a little bit because my journey has been how the medical system has completely failed me. And this is where I'm going to put my disclaimer in. I should have said this in the beginning. By no means am I saying anything like people should come off of their meds. People should stop believing in their doctors. People should stop listening to their doctors. This is just my story of what happened to me, the journey that I went through. Everybody, we're all on our own personal journeys here. So we all need to listen to our own inner guidance and outer guidance, our higher powers, our intuitions. Listen to what other people say, but take that with a grain of salt. Take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. This is just my journey. And I have a couple of, actually, I have many experiences where Western medicine, the allopathic model, has so completely failed me that I've actually almost completely abandoned it. So in 2003, 3 years into my journey with Western medicine, mental health, the antipsychotics were brought on board because I was blacking out. I was self-harming in a dissociated state. I wasn't aware that I was doing it, so I was waking up. This was like the scariest 2 years of my life. This is where a lot of really, really terrible and uncomfortable things happened to me and to everybody who was around me. I became really well known to the police because they were constantly at my door. I was arrested under the Mental Health Act probably 4 times, hospitalized involuntarily several times. One of those times, they put you in orange pajamas in the local hospital here. They put you in orange pajamas to signify that you're not allowed off the ward. This is one of the stories that I'm going to share, just to kind of give you a little glimpse of how really, really, like, terrible is such an inadequate word, but that's the word that I have. So I'm in orange pajamas. I'm not allowed to leave the ward, and somehow I get outside. And without getting into any details, I found something sharp and I hurt myself quite severely. I created a 6-foot biohazard in front of the hospital. I hit an artery in my hand. And so again, I have to laugh, and I'm sorry if this triggers people, but this is like the epitome of what the fuck. And how the mental health system dealt with me is just like disgusting. So I'm terrified. I've like come to, I've woken up. I have no idea what happened. I don't remember hurting myself. And there's blood shooting 6 foot out of my body, 360 degrees, because I'm flailing. I am freaking out. So they tackle me, they bring me upstairs and they get me settled and stitched up and just like, I got kicked out of the hospital for that episode because they thought I was making it all up. They didn't believe that I didn't know what was happening. They thought I was making it all up. They thought that I was attention seeking. This is a word that they threw at me a lot. I was an attention seeker. So I got kicked out of the hospital. As you can imagine, that made things worse because I was screaming for help in so many ways. And the only help that I really had was this thing called the mental health system, and they kicked me out. So now what? Well, holy shit, things got really ugly again, uglier. I'm not going to get into any of that because wow, those kind of details don't need to be known. But it got bad. I'll tell you that it got worse and it got worse and it got worse all the way to rock bottom in 2010. So 3 suicide attempts. I was so done. I couldn't keep living like that. Ugh. Let's all just take a couple of deep breaths. Ground ourselves back into this present moment. So I was put back in the hospital after 3 suicide attempts in 10 days. Before that, I had been in and out of the hospital. It was like a revolving door, whether I was being involuntarily admitted or I had voluntarily admitted myself. When they kicked me out in 2005, I spent 5 years away from the mental health system in Victoria. I had moved away. So I wasn't in that hospital. So when I got back into that hospital after rock bottom, I was there for 6 weeks. They wanted to stabilize me. So guess what? They added more drugs. Now I was taking 26 prescribed pills a day. They added loxapine. It's an antipsychotic. I remember that after my first pill, this was so scary. I woke up. I'd been sleeping, sitting up, and I was drooling all over myself. My whole chest was just like wet. This is how the mental health system deals with people who are in pain, people who had been traumatized. So my 13 years in the mental health system was so traumatizing. My first diagnosis, one of the first of that first round of 7, post-traumatic stress disorder. I can tell you that the mental health system is so traumatizing. So the beautiful thing about rock bottom is there's nowhere to go but up. So that 30-minute little spiel I just did was my way to rock bottom, my spiral down. Spirals happen up too. And so this is the happy part of the journey, the happy ending, the spiral up that I get to share now. The spiral down was hard. Rock bottom was hard. The spiral up was difficult. It took work. There was many challenges. But unlike rock bottom, where you're just going down further, there's no hope, it's all just ugly and dark. The spiral up is the opposite. It's full of hope. It's full of light. There's a destination, and it's pulling you in a good way. So when I got out of that hospital again after 6 weeks, I was placed with a psychologist that I had worked with for a little while over the years. She kept trying to help me, and I wasn't ready. Actually, lots of people tried to help me, but I wasn't ready. I know now, looking back on everything, there's all of these stepping stones, these trials and tribulations. I call them strength building exercises. They're everywhere. Life is full of them. They all need to happen. We're all on this journey. And each of my stepping stones needed to happen just like that to get me to where I am now. So this psychologist wanted to help me. She said to me, Jody, I want to help you, but I need to get you off of some of these pills. Because I was a walking zombie. I was on 4 benzos at the same time. I was taking Valium 4 times a day. I was taking oxazepam 4 times a day. I was taking clonazepam 4 times a day. And I was putting Ativan under my tongue like it was going out of style because I had no control over myself. I was completely reliant on these pills. So when she said to me, I need to get you off of some of these pills, I was like, what? What? It was so strange to hear that because previously all of the doctors needed to add more pills, more drugs, different pills, different drugs. So at first it was so bizarre, but I was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's get off of some of these pills. And then in my black and white state, I've always been very black and white, still working on finding the gray, but at that time there was no gray. So I went from the possibility of let's get off of some of these pills to let's get off of all of them. I had been medicated for 13 years, since my early 20s. Actually, I took my first antidepressant when I was 18. That should have been a red flag. I'll just segue into that short story. When I was 18, I wanted to be a criminal psychologist. I was in college. It went really badly. Long story short, it didn't work out. And I got depressed because it didn't work out. My dream wasn't going to happen. So I call that justifiably depressed at 18. I was given Paxil. And in 2 weeks, I went from being justifiably depressed to suicidal. So that was my first experience with psychotropic drugs. If only I had seen that for what it was, I wouldn't have gone through my journey. I wouldn't be here right now. So I'm actually grateful for all of it, because where I am now is really awesome. So the psychologist wanted to get me off of some of the pills, and I went to the extreme, and I'm like, yep, let's get rid of all of them. I wanted to find out who I was. I had no idea who I was. I'd been medicated for so long. So that was the journey. I started tapering off of 26 pills. Took over 2 years. Looking back on it, I wish I had taken longer, because holy crap, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. The withdrawal hell that I went through was, I don't know how I survived that. Like, I seriously don't know how I survived. It was so hard. I didn't have a lot of support through really all of my journey. From the beginning, as a child, like I never had a lot of support growing up or in any of these journeys until recently. So I was pretty much on my own. And I didn't find any of the benzo groups online until I had already finished my taper. And that was both a blessing and a curse. Because once I found the groups, I quickly got out of them. They weren't helpful for me. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of complaining. There's not a lot of empowerment. There's not a lot of solutions. And I'm really big on empowerment and solutions. So anyway, I didn't have a lot of support. I was on my own. And I was forced to figure it out. I was forced to get so strong. I didn't have any other choice. I had to plug forward. Every time I thought about giving up, I remembered what it felt like to wake up strapped to that hospital bed. There was no giving up. I had tried that. It didn't work. What a blessing. So 2.5 years, probably, to taper. That drug withdrawal completely destroyed my digestive system. Almost completely destroyed my brain. I thought that I had early onset dementia. Basically, my brain shut down. I couldn't think. I couldn't brain, I call it. I couldn't brain. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't form sentences. That was so scary. I thought I was going to be like that for the rest of my life. There was still no hope for recovery. even though I had gotten off of all of the drugs, as I got off of those drugs, my mental health started improving. The psychosis went away, the mood swings smoothed out, the anxiety calmed down, the night terrors, like almost all of my symptoms, my mental illness symptoms, looking back on it, most of those were caused by the drugs that the doctors put me on. That's my experience. This is me sharing my story from my memory. That's my opinion based on my experience. I walked into the mental health system a traumatized person. I was labeled and medicated. And as I came out of the system, I have to look back on things and go, holy crap. For a long time, I went, holy crap, look what they did to me, because I was in victimhood. That's been part of my transformation. I'm no longer in victimhood. I'm not a victim of any outside circumstances. That was a hard pill to swallow. But I can tell you, once you swallow it, life is beautiful. So this journey from rock bottom up, the spiral up, this is like where my body gets flooded with all of these feel-good hormones. You see, each of our cells stores memory. So when I was talking about my downward spiral, I can feel it in all of my cells. I've done a lot of healing, but I still carry a lot of that trauma in me. And so the feelings that I was feeling as I was sharing that were really yucky and uncomfortable, because what I was sharing was yucky and uncomfortable. So here I am now at the good part, and I'm just like flooded by all of these feel-good hormones. And I'm so grateful that I get to share this spiral up. 2.5 years to taper. 2.5 years later, I was still living in hell, and there was still no hope for recovery. I want to share one more story that will just give you another glimpse of how I can almost completely walk away from Western medicine. Again, another disclaimer, this is my story. This is what I experienced. I'm not telling you that you should walk away from Western medicine. I'm not telling you that you should stop taking any sort of pills or medication. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just sharing with you what happened to me, the experiences that I had that caused me to do what I've done. I think this is really important, because when I get to the miracle moments, I think it's really important that I share with people like just how desperate I was for help, because I was still so hopeless and helpless. So when I was going through my drug withdrawal, I didn't have a lot of support, and I was so sick. I couldn't physically cope anymore. I also, something I'm not mentioning here because it's a whole nother story, is my physical healing journey. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2009 after a lifetime of complaining about all sorts of things and the doctors not listening and not believing me. And finally, I was diagnosed with this thing, fibromyalgia. So I was so sick physically, and like just physically sick from the drug withdrawal. I couldn't stop throwing up. And so like I was so weak. I went to the emergency room a few times. Actually 3 times, 3 days in a row. I ended up at my local emergency. I have 4 hospitals in the city that I live in. So my local emergency, 3 days in a row, they couldn't do anything for me. They didn't agree with what I was doing coming off of the drugs. This was what was causing the symptoms. They couldn't do anything for me. So they basically just kept sending me home. So I called my mom, which is not something I do often. I called my mom for help because I was desperate. She took me to a different hospital. If I was stronger, I would have protested more because I knew what was going to happen because of my 3 previous experiences. So I'll just try to paint a picture and just, you know, I'm so sorry if this triggers people. I know my story is full of yucky, but I just want to highlight this. Because this was really the end for me when I was so done with Western medicine. I'm in the emergency room. I can't stand up straight because I've got so many tummy troubles. I literally am so much pain in my gut. I can't stand up straight. I haven't stopped throwing up. I have a sip of water, I'm throwing up. I'm dry heaving, like I'm just like so sick, so weak. I'm in the emergency room by myself because my mom like kind of drops me off and then just, I don't know where she was, but she wasn't with me. She was not at my side. So basically, the doctor was telling me I could go home because there was nothing they could do for me. And I had a fucking panic attack. I lost it. I was so sick. I was so desperately, like, just desperately help me. I was so sick. Like, I can't even, ugh. So the doctor says, you can go home. And I hit the floor. Like, my knees buckled. I'm having a panic attack. My knees buckle. I hit the floor. Everything starts spinning. I'm blacking out. I'm so overwhelmed. And I hear the doctor say, this is unacceptable behavior. Somebody calls security. Done. That was the end of it for me. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was my final straw with Western medicine. Another disclaimer. Western medicine actually does some really great things. If you get into a car accident, go call 911. If you injure yourself, go play with the doctors, play with the nurses. They do good things. But when it comes to chronic stuff, when it comes to what I was experiencing, they did way more damage than they did good for me. So that was the end of Western medicine for me. So back to where I was. I was in withdrawal hell 2.5 years after I took my last pill. April 24th of 2012 was when I took my last pill. That was 10 years ago. What a journey it's been to get here. So I wanted to share that story with you because I just needed you to understand the best that you could, that I was still hopeless. I had completely walked away from Western medicine. They couldn't help me. They did way more damage than good. I couldn't, I was beating my head against the wall trying to get them to help me. So 2014, let's jump ahead there. 2.5 years after I took my last pill, I had all of the classic symptoms of drug withdrawal. The brain, the tummy, all of the benzo groups have all of these fancy words because the mind needs to understand things. I can just tell you that I was in so much pain. My body was so out of control. My nervous system was so dysregulated. I was still a complete basket case, but I was off the drugs. I started watching inspirational videos on YouTube. I started learning about food as medicine. So I wasn't listening to Western medicine anymore, and I hadn't discovered any of the other awesome things out there yet. So food as medicine was my first big self-healing technique. And there's a lot of power here. Food is medicine. Hippocrates said that eons ago. Let food be thy medicine. Everything that we need is in the food. All of the vitamins and the minerals. There's medicine in there. And I'm not talking like pharmaceutical medicine like has happened with allopathy. I'm talking like life-giving medicine, healing medicine. So I had to become an expert in nutrition. I read everything I could find. I watched all of the documentaries. I had to change everything about my diet. Really, when I was going through that drug withdrawal, I couldn't eat hardly anything. So again, I was like forced all the way along the way, just forced to take matters into my own hands. I was really just kind of forced to step into the driver's seat of my own journey. Before rock bottom, I was not in the driver's seat at all. During my childhood, I wasn't in the driver's seat. My teenage years, I was just a victim the whole time. Wasn't in control of any of it. Wasn't in charge of any of it. Wasn't driving any of those buses. So food as medicine was really my first get into that. And so the spiral up, the spiral down happened. It took 13 years to get to where I rock bottom from the straw that broke the camel's back. The spiral up was way quicker. I took some notes here. I have what I call a timeline of events because I am writing a book. I want to write 3 books about my journey because it's so epic. The transformation that I've experienced is shocking. I'm still in a state of shock and awe at what's happened in my life. So my place of surrender, this is one of the magical moments. I've had many magical moments, but this was one of them. So I was raised as an atheist. And this was, looking back on my life, part of the pain that I was experiencing, that aloneness, not having a higher power, not understanding that I was connected to everyone and everything. So I was alone, I was lonely, I was empty, and I was mad. So I had been listening to these inspirational videos on YouTube, and this guy kept saying the word guru. Guru means teacher. He was saying that I needed a teacher. And he kept saying it in all of these different ways, and I didn't understand. And I can't say this story without a big smile on my face because it's so funny at this point, looking back on it. As an atheist, I look up with my hands up and everything, and I say to the universe, if I need a guru, show me. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. Looking back on it, I was surrendering. I was asking for help. And I can tell you from experience, when you ask for help, you're going to get it. Actually, everything we ask for, we're going to get, whether it's for the good or for the bad. So a few weeks later, I received that help. I was at a women's health show and I was handed a book called Soul Healing Miracles. Ancient and new sacred wisdom, knowledge, and practical techniques for healing the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical bodies. Wow. So in this book, I kept it because it's so profound. There was an invite to a soul healing group. This is called Empower Yourself. And then it says, if you want to know how it works, come experience it. And so in my place of desperation, my hopelessness, when I was still so sick from the drug withdrawal and completely done with Western medicine, here was this solution, this potential solution. So I went to that group. It was very close to me, but it was in the evening. And I was terrified to go out at night. I was actually terrified of just about everything. I had no trust in anything, including myself. I was desperate though, so I gave it a try. And what I encountered was one of the most bizarre things. And I still think it's bizarre because I don't really fully understand all that's happened, but that's okay. I don't have to understand it all. I know it works because I've experienced it. And so this is where I began my journey with love, peace, harmony. This was the beginning of my time of miracles. Miracles happen all the time. The question is, how open are we to receive them? Looking back on my journey, the only reason that I survived is because I have guardian angels. Did I believe that at the time? No. Did I need to? No. When I started this journey where I learned how to step into the driver's seat, and I learned how to open my heart, and I learned how to start removing the blockages in my life, things started shifting quickly. First, they got worse before they got better. And then they got better and better and better and better and better and better. And I could spend the next 10 minutes just saying that, and better and better and better. So, quickly speaking, every aspect of my life has been completely transformed thanks to the teaching, the wisdom, the practices of Dr. and Master Zhigong Shah. He's the writer of that book, Soul Healing Miracles. He's written over 20 books, I think 27 books at this point. For 7 years, it's been 7.5 years, I've been a student of Dr. and Master Shah. I've experienced so many miracles. That book is called Soul Healing Miracles. So one of the big teachings of this incredible grand master is the power of soul. we chant mantras. It's a chanting meditation. He teaches these power techniques. There's 6 power techniques. I could go on for a very long time sharing all of the amazing things that have happened to me, but we don't have time for that right here, right now. I will just say again that every aspect of my life has been completely transformed. And where I am now, I'm in a state of shock and awe on a regular basis. May is a very contemplative month for me because 12 years ago, I woke up strapped to a hospital bed. I was living in hell and I'd been there for a very long time. And now, 12 years later, heaven is a place on earth. It all exists right here, heaven and hell. And so I have experienced both. And so I have a very unique perspective and a very unique take on things because I've been there and I've been here. I am here now. And so I love how Kenneth put a lighthouse on the advertising for this talk. Because these practices I've been doing, the self-healing that I've been doing, what we do is we bring the light in. And then once that light is within me, I can radiate it out to others. I can be the beacon of light, the lighthouse that shines my bright light into the darkness of others. So where I am now, I've had this profound experience. I've learned many things, and I've been taking some classes. I've been doing some training. I've become a certified energy healer. It's bigger than energy. It's actually soul healing. I've been given the opportunity to create miracles in my own life and in the lives of my clients. I've also recently been certified as a soul communicator. So I've been taught how to channel. I've been taught how to connect to higher powers and channel. We can all do this. Again, it's just how open is our heart and how pure is the vessel. A big part of it is purifying. And that's what healing is. I love how simple Dr. Shaw makes everything. He calls them blockages, and the idea is we want to remove them. We want to purify the blockages out. This has been my first rodeo. It was all I knew for the first 7 years of this journey. And I've just recently been branching out to find out that there's so many teachers out there doing very similar things. There is so much available to us to heal, to transform. There's teachers out there. There's communities out there. And so I joined a really beautiful community in order to do this powerful healing work. It's work, it takes work, and it's so worth it. So just recently, I completed a 5-week series that I called the Empower Hour. And so I have this incredibly powerful transformational journey with all of these tools that I've developed along the way, tools that I've accumulated, that I've been taught, that I've learned, and I want to share that. So I did this 5-week series called the Empower Hour. It's on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called Journey of the Lotus. I invite you to go there and check it out. I give a little bit about my journey, and I just share the tools that I've learned, the techniques, some practices, and community. Kenneth has a beautiful community that have surrounded him, and we're doing this work together. We're each individually doing our work, and then we come together and we support each other. We can't do this work alone. We need a community. They say it takes a village. It really does. We're tribal people. We thrive in community. So finding a positive community is so beneficial. And so part of my Empower Hour has been to invite people into community. Find a community, a healthy community, a goal-oriented community, a solution-oriented community. They're out there. There's so many people doing this work right now. I just recently I did a Tony Robbins retreat. He has a huge community of people following him. What a powerful event that was. Another total game changer in my life. My Tony Robbins retreat. I'm doing another one in July. And then also I've branched out to the Awakened School. So my teacher, Dr. Shaw, runs the Tao Academy. So I've been involved with them for a few years, and now I'm branching out. Every morning I ask my higher power, my guides, please show me my path. And I'm so amazed at what they show me. So I've just recently been involved with the Awakened School. I'm doing a transformational coaching program. So soon I will be a certified transformational coach. And I want to focus my attention on helping people recover and regain their wellness. I want to focus on helping people release trauma. Because these are root blockages, these are root causes for why we have this thing called mental illness. So I want to stop talking very soon, because holy smokes, I've been talking for an hour. Where am I now? I'm living in the love and light that surrounds all of us at all times. I'm open to the love and the light. I've invited the love and light into my body, into my life, and I'm now radiating that out to others. And I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity to transform. It took me a lot of work to get here, when I can actually honestly say to everybody, I am so grateful for everything that I've been through. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Kenneth, for inviting me here. There's so much more to this story. I could unpack it for so long, and I'm going to, because I've learned so much, and everything happens for a reason. And I'm certainly not the only one that it's happening to. So I'm going to keep creating YouTube videos. I'm going to keep putting my message out. I'm going to keep shining my light. And I'm going to keep inviting people to open their hearts, to step into the driver's seat, and to allow the miracles in. 10-10. Thank you.
We got it, Jody. I wanted your testimony on YouTube from start to finish. It's only halfway. You're still in your 40s. Always teasing people about their age. Oh, I loved it. Oh, you know me, note taker. When I said I don't take notes, that's not true. But when I hear something I need the part, and we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I want to get to some people who may have some questions. But I wrote down it's going to be at the 52-minute mark, exactly when I think I heard at the 52-minute mark, it was your moment of surrender. And that's when it started the upward spiral. And then I started hearing from you words like spirit guide and miracles. And if I can add, and guru, teacher, Jody, you and I have the exact same story. And we are healers. Am I a healer? I don't know. But I'm just going to say you are a healer, not in spite of that parable, but because of that parable. Now, I always say too much. We got Shia, Carolyn, Tina, and Kari. Have you got any questions? We don't have a whole lot of time, but someone like to participate. Kari, I'm sure you have some questions for Jody. Would you like to unmute yourself? It's good to see you again. Howdy.
Hey all. I don't have any questions other than I'm absolutely floored by your story, Jody, by the horrors that you endured in the medical system, and just amazed and full of hope for my own life at your emergence. I'm ready to read the book. So write it, girl, because I am just in awe. So thank you for being so vulnerable and for allowing us to know that we are not alone in this. And we all have a similar story, I think. Maybe not, the details might be a little bit different, but yeah, that's it. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad I showed up.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm in shock and awe almost every day at where I am. I woke up from a nightmare. I used to think like, holy crap, did that all happen? Like, yeah, that all happened. Wow. I've got scars to prove it. Like physical scars, not only the memories, but yeah, shock and awe. Miracles, holy smokes.
Resonated for me was about like heaven and hell. They're both here on earth. It is a state of mind. And when I changed my thinking, it changed my entire life. And the miracles just keep pouring in. So it's amazing once you attune to that frequency, how much things change.
Absolutely.
And it's still, a challenging journey because that is life, and there's so much wisdom in everything that we've endured. So yeah, I resonated with all that. I'm going to be quiet now. Thank you.
Tina had her hand up. Hi, Tina.
Wow, Jody. Shock and awe listening to your experience and your emergence, and very surprised at the level of emotion I felt while you were talking, not only for empathy for your experience, but also for my own. Very, very, very powerful. So many similarities in the stories, just unbelievable amount of similarities. And I just want to say thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing your story with us.
Thank you. We do all have a very similar story. I really believe that. We're all here having a human experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And those of us, you know, in this community, the people that are going to be attracted to this story have a similar story. It's all very parallel. Carolyn.
Carolyn, can you unmute yourself? I see you got your hand up.
Oh, thank you. So Jody, I mean, like everyone is saying, you know, about the similarities. And first, I really need to thank you for your candor, your honesty, as ugly as it has been. My goodness, like so many things that you said resonate with me. The one thing in particular that, like right off the bat, when you said, you know, when you were going through this, you didn't find the benzo groups right off the bat, and maybe it was a blessing and a curse. And I couldn't agree with that statement more. It's odd, like this journey is very lonely. And at least with my experience, you know, a lot of people, either they don't believe you or they think that, you know, you're crazy. And it's very isolating. But then I found the benzo groups after I had gone through, you know, my withdrawal, and I'm still, you know, 2.5 years after my last pill. I'm still similar, like your timeline is just spot on. But thank you. You know, when you said about the spiral, looking up, you know, now all things are bright and beautiful. I couldn't agree with you more. And it sounds like I've had people say to me, oh my gosh, you know, you're so good right now. You're like your old self. And I correct them and I say, no, I'm a better version of me. And I'm the best version that I've ever been. And wait till you see what's ahead. So I'm anxious to follow you and to see, you know, how you're better and better and better, keeps getting better. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn. I invite you to check out my YouTube channel. On Facebook, I'm Jody Michelle, and YouTube, Journey of the Lotus. Also Instagram, Journey of the Lotus. I'm not very active on social media, but I do want to really start making more videos. And I'm a transformational coach. So I'm inviting people to, if they want to work with somebody one-on-one, or even in more of a group setting, like, you know, Kenneth has a community, we get together as a group, and I would love to do one-on-ones and group stuff with people, and just really, we're all in this together. Like, let's help each other get through this. Let's help each other emerge into our greatest version. Together, we have the power to do this. This is a big part of what, you know, the spiritual journey is about, is returning back to this oneness. We are all one. We're all in this together. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Last but not least, I think he already unmuted himself.
Yeah, thank you, Jody, for your story. Trying to like, I was just gonna say thank you, but the truth is, from the first time I came to the Zoom meeting and I heard you share, it had an effect on me. It was like, for me, it was a story of hope. And that's how I viewed it. That's how so your story of hope, and it's much more than that, but has given me hope. And I'm really appreciative for you sharing this, and for the Zooms, and for your Zooms, and thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Shaya.
Yeah.
Of course, we could go on. However, this timing's perfect because I only want the YouTube archives about an hour and 20 minutes. I can't explain how all this has landed in such synchronicity. Here we are about an hour and 20 minutes. We've got our last share. You did Jody, that was beautiful. What it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. We got participation. I can't add to that. You said it all. That's why I wanted this story stamped on YouTube, because I'm a contractor. I like before and after photos. 10 years later, you can go back on YouTube. When you're a New York Times bestselling author. I can say that because I won't go to your ego. Okay. All right. Anybody want to wrap this up with anything? I'm so thrilled. That was such a beautiful testimony. And it's beautiful because others need to hear that so they can, again, embody the lighthouse message that was inside of it. We have to relate what the storm is like, because once we get on shore, you're shining the light for others who are still lost at sea. This is the light. Follow it. Okay, so this is Kenneth Price for a ministry that I'm hosting for Sunday, May 22nd, for our Sunday morning Zoom call when we interviewed Jody. Is it Michelle? Help me out. I can't pronounce your last name, Michelle. Okay, listen, folks. Emergence is not only possible, but it's probable. And this is one woman's testimony of courage, faith, and a lot of hard work. And because of this psychiatric parable, she's gone on and is going on to becoming a powerful healer. Some people might say a wounded healer, but don't get caught on the vernacular. Wounded healer only means that she has empathy for what it's like to be in a psychiatric parable. So this recording is for psychiatricsobriety.com. Please, this is a YouTube archive. Leave your comments in the description below. And if you like the message, we're a community of others who have chosen to exit psychiatry, surrender their pharmaceuticals, and permeate the veils of mental illness. The one sentence before that is for the courageous souls. All right, so I'm going to leave my website and some of the topics that Jody brought up will be in the description line. And God bless. And remember the slogan that started all of this back in August of 2021. Folks, there's a narrative going around that we've been damaged by pharmaceuticals. We've been damaged by psych meds and benzodiazepines. Now, the reason I wanted this archived is that was a belief that was in Jody's story too. And that was a belief that was in my story too. But you need to watch this archive. You need to see you need to see my camera. You need to see Jody's camera. It wasn't true for us. It didn't turn out to be true. And so when I started this whole ministry back in August of 2021, it was based on a quote: "You've not been damaged by psych meds and pharmaceuticals because who you are can't be damaged." And I hope you gathered that from Jody's testimony. When Jody started discovering who she is, when I started discovering who I am, we were no longer a match for mental illness or fill in the blank, any sort of illness. God bless. Much love. I hope to hear from you. Bye.